Rome stood at the threshold of a new era, battered by years of civil war, yet eager for a decisive end. It was early in 46 BCE. Into this anxious atmosphere stepped Gaius Julius Caesar, returning from his lightning campaigns in Asia Minor. Fresh off victories against formidable foes, he crossed the Aegean Sea, landed at Brundisium, and marched north to the capital, where citizens crowded the streets to hail the seemingly unstoppable general. Yet behind the applause lay deep unease. The Senate, once aligned with Pompey, watched warily, for Caesar's popularity now eclipsed that of any rival. Meanwhile, remnants of Pompeian loyalists still clung to the faint hope of resistance. Seizing the moment, Caesar swiftly convened key officials and influential families, making it clear he intended to finish what he had begun. By this point in history, the world's population is estimated to have ranged between 200 and 250 million, with as many as 50 million living in territories bordering the Mediterranean. This meant Rome's struggle for dominance touched roughly a quarter of humanity, drawing resources and manpower from every corner of its vast domain. Against this backdrop, Caesar's goal was straightforward: eliminate lingering threats and secure the power needed to steer Rome's future, setting the stage for the final chapter of the Civil War and the sweeping reforms soon to follow.
Did you know that most people who watch our documentaries aren't subscribed yet? If you enjoy animated maps and history, join our community. Leave a like and subscribe so you never miss the next episodes.
By early 46 BCE, North Africa had become the last major stronghold for Pompeian loyalists determined to resist Caesar's rise. Commanders such as Metellus Scipio and Marcus Porcius Cato, Cato the Younger, gathered what remained of the Pompeian forces, estimated at 25,000 to 30,000 men, including local auxiliaries, along the fertile coastline near Hadrumetum, modern Sousse in Tunisia. They hoped that by fortifying a coastal position, they could protect key maritime supply routes and, with some luck, repel Caesar's advance. Meanwhile, Caesar, resolved to end the civil war, sailed southward from Sicily with a similarly sized force of 25,000 to 30,000 troops, legionaries, cavalry, and aligned contingents. Upon landing in Africa, he secured local supply lines, gathered intelligence on Pompeian dispositions, and maneuvered his forces to force an engagement. The Pompeians ultimately chose Thapsus, a strategically located coastal town, for their defensive stand. Caesar capitalized on his troops' extensive combat experience by probing enemy lines and fortifying positions in preparation for a decisive attack. Shortly after the decisive outcome at Thapsus, where Caesar's legions decimated Pompeian forces, killing or capturing around 10,000 men, Marcus Porcius Cato, Cato the Younger, one of the staunchest defenders of the Republican cause, chose to end his life in Utica rather than submit to Caesar. While the battle itself had already delivered a fatal blow to the Pompeian position, Cato's suicide became a symbolic final stand. His death, alongside the crushing losses at Thapsus, effectively marked the end of significant opposition in North Africa. Caesar's subsequent return to Rome, celebrated by a grand triumph, set the stage for the next and final chapter of the Civil War in Hispania. With North Africa secured, Caesar returned to Rome in triumph. Over the following weeks, he celebrated 4 triumphs, commemorating his campaigns in Gaul, Egypt, Pontus, and now Africa. During these lavish processions, Caesar's own soldiers continued a long-standing tradition of irreverent banter, chanting bawdy verses that playfully mocked their general's rumored sexual appetites. Despite the jesting tone, the African triumph underscored Caesar's growing political supremacy. Nevertheless, the Civil War's final chapter awaited him far to the west, in Hispania. By early 45 BCE, the final embers of Pompeian resistance had gathered in Hispania, modern Spain, transforming it into the last major theater of the Civil War. Gnaeus Pompey and Sextus Pompey, the sons of the late Pompey the Great, joined forces with Titus Labienus, once Caesar's trusted lieutenant, now among the staunchest adversaries. Historical estimates suggest they could muster around 35,000 troops, a mix of Roman veterans and local auxiliaries. From strongholds in southeastern and southern Hispania, they prepared for a decisive showdown against Caesar's legions. Fresh from his triumphs in Rome, Caesar led an army of roughly comparable size westward, through Gaul and into Hispania. Despite the numbers being similar, his soldiers carried invaluable combat experience, having fought in Gaul, Egypt, and Africa. Caesar's objective was clear: cut off Pompeian supply lines and pin them down near Munda, a strategically vital town in the province of Baetica, modern Andalusia. Controlling Munda meant controlling the region's roads, resources, and ultimately, its fate. Munda would soon prove to be one of Caesar's most perilous battles of the entire civil war. The Pompeian forces held high ground, raining down missiles and launching swift counterattacks that momentarily threw Caesar's lines into disarray. Alarmed by the sudden loss of momentum, Caesar rode to the front, personally urging his veterans to recall their past glories and stand firm. His presence revived their fighting spirit at the critical juncture, preventing what could have become a disastrous rout. Once his forces regained their footing, Caesar ordered a concentrated push against the Pompeian flank. The attritional struggle that followed saw Titus Labienus killed, while Gnaeus Pompey barely escaped, only to be caught and executed shortly after. Though casualty figures vary in the ancient sources, they agree that the Pompeians suffered catastrophic losses, effectively ending organized resistance to Caesar's rule. Back in Rome, rumors circulated about a possible fifth triumph to celebrate the victory at Munda. Some ancient sources hint Caesar may have considered another grand procession, but the historical record was fragmentary and provided no definitive confirmation. Moreover, with 4 triumphs already held in 46 BCE, and mindful that Munda had pitted Romans against Romans, Caesar likely chose to avoid further controversy. Instead, he returned home to consolidate his unprecedented power, setting the stage for the final chapter of his extraordinary political career. By mid-45 BCE, with the final Pompeian resistance crushed at Munda, Julius Caesar returned to Rome as the uncontested master of the Republic. The Senate, eager to appease the man who had eliminated every rival, granted him Dictator Perpetuum, or Dictator for life. Traditionally, dictators served only brief terms in emergencies. Caesar's lifetime appointment thus marked a seismic shift in Rome's political framework. Having secured the realm, Caesar refocused on reforms aimed at unifying and modernizing the Republic. Chief among these was the Julian calendar, introduced to replace Rome's outdated lunar system. Drawing on Egyptian astronomical knowledge, Caesar instituted 365 days per year, plus a leap year every 4 years to align closely with the solar cycle. He also rationalized the mismatched lengths of months, allowing for a more consistent schedule of civic events. And to honor its creator, the month Quintilis was renamed Lulius, from which we derive July. Though Pope Gregory XIII later refined the system, creating the Gregorian calendar, Caesar's model remains largely recognizable to us today, an enduring testament to how advanced Roman administrative thinking could be. Beyond the calendar, Caesar expanded citizenship and governance. He extended Roman citizenship to select provincial elites in Gaul and Hispania, solidifying their loyalty and facilitating smoother administration. Meanwhile, he reorganized provincial rule, assigning officials to oversee fair tax collection and mitigate corruption. While these changes often favored his supporters, they also helped stabilize Rome's rapidly growing empire. On the socio-economic front, Caesar addressed debt by passing relief measures, commissioned public works such as temples, basilicas, and forums, and enlarged the Senate to include new voices from across the provinces. Though critics saw this as diluting aristocratic power, Caesar positioned it as a progressive move toward broader representation. During his tenure as dictator, Julius Caesar spearheaded a wave of urban development that reshaped Rome's landscape. He founded new forums to handle mounting bureaucratic demands, easing congestion in the older Forum Romanum. Additional roads were constructed and existing ones improved, accelerating traffic flow and trade routes across the city. These enhancements not only streamlined daily life, but also boosted economic vitality, reflecting Rome's emerging status as a cosmopolitan hub. Caesar's vision for a grand, functional capital resonated with future emperors, Augustus, Trajan, and beyond, who expanded upon his initiatives, propelling Rome's skyline toward enduring architectural grandeur and global admiration for centuries. By consolidating political, military, and economic authority, Caesar became the principal architect of Rome's immediate destiny. His dictatorship promised much-needed stability, yet it also sparked fears about the future of republican governance. Even as he reshaped the state, discontent festered among senators who saw in Caesar's ever-growing powers a direct threat to Rome's ancient traditions, setting the stage for a dramatic final act in his extraordinary career. By 45 BCE, Julius Caesar stood at the apex of Roman power, having crushed all remaining Pompeian forces and secured broad authority. Crowned with the unprecedented title of Dictator Perpetuus, he overshadowed all rival factions. Yet apprehension simmered among senators alarmed by what they saw as creeping monarchy, reinforced by Caesar's boundless honors and the cult of personality around him. The expansion of the Senate, filling seats with Caesar's loyal supporters, eroded Rome's long-standing aristocracy and weakened republic checks and balances. As public adulation soared, talk of further honors, possibly even kingship, stirred desperation among the old elite. Though Caesar's reforms aimed to rebuild a fractured state, they also fueled suspicion that the republic's core values were being swept aside. By early 44 BCE, resentment coalesced among key senators determined to protect the old order. Their plan took shape in whispers and closed-door meetings, culminating on the Ides of March, when Caesar's fellow Romans drew their blades. Thus ended his meteoric rise and ushered Rome toward a fateful crossroads in its history, forever altering the Republic's destiny. If you found this exploration of Caesar's final ascension insightful, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into Roman history and beyond. Your support helps us bring the ancient world to life. Thanks for watching.